Hi again. So there are many important things to remember about the Hindemith Sonata for trumpet and piano. And first of all, it really is a duo sonata, which means it is for both piano and trumpet. Now, for the All-State Honour Band auditions, you'll be obviously playing it without the piano, but it's important to be familiar with what the piano is doing. It will help you a lot in your interpretation of the piece. You also need to make sure you understand the music, because you have to really bring out the music in this piece. I have to confess, when I was young, many years ago, first learning this sonata, it wasn't my favorite piece of music in the world. However, I grew to love it, and it's now one of my favorite pieces to play. So make sure you really get into it and try to really understand what is happening emotionally in this piece. It's important to sing it. Make sure you sing the phrases that will help you figure out where they need to go, what notes you need to bring out. Don't just play everything monotone. Make sure you really are very expressive with this piece of music. Make sure there's lots of direction giving, and make sure you know what the character is. What is the story that is going along with the music? What is the story that you are trying to tell with the sound of your instrument? Your sound. Make sure you have a really good concept of your sound all the time. Make sure you listen to plenty of good recordings of trumpet players, and not just trumpet players, but singers and other instrumentalists too, but particularly trumpet players, to get a really good concept of what you want to sound like. Make sure you always have that sound in your head as you are performing. It doesn't matter whether you're playing loud or playing soft, you must play with a great sound all the time. Air, wind, make sure you use lots of it. Wind being moving air. Make sure when you breathe in, when you play, that you are very relaxed for your upper body, and think O or ah. So you can get a lot of very relaxed air in. And a really good breath is actually pretty quiet, even though you're getting a lot of air in, because it means that you're not having all the friction through here, all the tension through here. So keep this very relaxed as you breathe in. And then as you blow out to play, you're going to support from here. You need to keep this very relaxed still, but make sure the support does come from here. It's useful to actually do a few breathing exercises before you play. If you're not familiar with any breathing exercises, you can look at the Breathing Gym DVD. They're very useful, some great exercises there. You can do some wind patterns, and what I mean by that is just putting your hand out in front of you, blowing the air out here, and articulating the piece as you're doing that. So for instance, the beginning of the Hindemith, you would go Obviously, you need to breathe more often than usual because you're using more air, but that's a really good reminder for you to get that air moving through the instrument. It's also important to remember to take it easy when you're playing. Stay focused, but again, you have to keep this pretty relaxed. Harder is not necessarily better. If you're working too hard, well, I mean, it doesn't look as good, but also it usually affects your sound in a negative way. So you need to stand up, nice, relaxed, good posture. Think of sound, think of movement of air, keeping this, again, as relaxed as you can when you are playing. So dynamics, make sure you have plenty of contrast in your dynamics when you are playing. It's a common mistake to start this piece loud and just get louder throughout it. There are definitely some moments that are supposed to be very quiet as well. So make sure you practice not only your loud playing, but also your quiet playing. You want to make sure you have plenty of control over your sound in the instrument, both when you're playing loud and when you are playing quietly. The first movement, it is indicated to be strong at the beginning. You definitely need to do that, but remember, it's marked forte, it's not your loudest dynamic. You actually do have to get louder a little bit later, and of course, you have to get a lot quieter at times as well. But don't start off as loud as you possibly can. Make sure you've got something in reserve for when you truly, truly have to be loud. Tempo, make sure your tempo is as steady as is possible. When you're practicing, use a metronome to keep you honest. With that, it's very easy to rush in this piece or even slow down. And also make sure you subdivide the beat. So check the rhythm very, very carefully. Okay, the first movement, some rhythmic issues to watch out for. An example is after the rehearsal number 4, you have some triplets in there against some rhythms that include some 16ths. Make sure you have a difference between your triplet 8ths and your 16ths. They should not be the same length. So make sure you do bring that out. So there's a few places in this piece like that where you really need to make sure you have a difference between your 16ths and your 8ths as well. The third movement, make sure, of course, with any piece that you're playing that you understand what the words are that are written on your piece of music. Third movement is funeral music. It's meant to be music for a funeral. It's pretty much about death. The chorale at the end, which you don't have to play for the all-state audition, but you should try to work on it. The words to go with it are Alle Menschen müssen sterben, and basically that translates to everybody must die. And then if you were to look up the words for the rest of this chorale, it says all flesh passes like grass, whatever lives must perish if it is to become new elsewhere. So that can tell you actually a lot about the character of the entire movement, if not the entire piece. So it is something to keep in mind. So again, the ending of this is something that is really good to work on, even though you actually don't have to record it for your audition. Practice this movement again with the metronome, particularly the opening section, the 4/4 section. It is quarter equals 40, which of course is pretty slow. I strongly recommend you work on this with the metronome set to 1/8 equals 80 instead, which subdivides the beat, or at least have quarter equals 40, but with the beat subdivision on there. It will help you a lot when you're figuring out the rhythms here. And don't be afraid to mark your music. Mark where the beats are. Clap the rhythms if you need to make sure that they are very precise. When you get to the 12/8 section, it's basically dotted quarter equals 40. However, it does move a little bit faster than that because of the directions that are given on there to be basically peacefully moving or quietly moving. So it does tend to flow a little bit more. But it's not going to be too fast, so just keep that in mind. I hope you enjoy playing this wonderful piece of music. If you have any questions about the piece or about the music program at San Jose State University, please contact me. It's catherine.adusi@sjsu.edu, and that information will be written for you at the end of this video clip. Thank you.